Namaste and welcome to day 10 of our Yoga Somatic Movement class with me, Aura. Let's open the class by chanting the Shanti mantra. If you know the mantra, you can chant along. If not, just close your eyes and feel its pristine vibrations. So, joining your hands lovingly together in front of your heart, let's begin. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा काश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। And let's for a moment take a couple of neutral breaths in and out. With a heart full of gratitude for the intelligence, the divinity, the grace and the generosity of the cosmic. Today, we will continue reading from chapter 4 of the book Step by Step Ascended Master Discourses by Peter Mount Shasta. 7 stages of consciousness. The first stage. The person in the first stage is a creature of emotional and sensual desire, preoccupied with survival and living only to satisfy itself. He has no thought of love or concern for another, as his entire action is the fulfilling of his own appetites. This person rarely has any thoughts of a higher realm. Second stage. The individual is now becoming aware of the rights of others, not to the extent that he will help others obtain those rights, but he is becoming conscious of the group and group activity. However, because this individual is still self-centered and preoccupied with emotional and sense gratification, he desires to exercise power over his fellows. There are a vast number of individuals in embodiment today who still belong to these first two classes. Third stage. Here we move into the class of those who not only understand the desires of others, but who are somewhat able to live and let live. The desire to have power over their fellows is no longer paramount, but rather they desire to see that others have an equal opportunity to indulge themselves, the stage at which the mass of humanity is today. Fourth stage. The person now enters the pathway of light. He accepts there is something more to life than the satisfying emotional and physical desires. He becomes aware of higher consciousness. Personal desire still has some control, yet he is beginning to look for something higher. Fifth stage. The individual realizes that there is a power greater than his ego. He realizes that this power, although mostly invisible, can bring meaning and happiness to life. He has moments of higher consciousness. The individual is often confused, for he has not yet surrendered his will and ego to his I Am presence, a transition that is often painful. Sixth stage. The individual is in frequent contact with his higher self, no longer motivated by personal desire, and lives for the benefit of others. Seventh stage. The individual is self-conscious at all times and beyond the temptation to misuse his power. He is in contact with his own God presence and the ascended masters, and liberation and ascension are a reality. Each stage also has many degrees, none of which are fixed. There are some individuals even as high as the sixth plane who are rendering a great service, yet in some ways have never evolved totally out of the first or second state of consciousness. It is difficult to tell where an individual stands, and you should never judge another. However, if you are honest with yourself, you can determine at what stage of consciousness you stand. And let's take another quiet moment to reflect on what we just learned from the Ascended Masters, the seven stages of consciousness. And where do you stand in these stages? Be honest with yourself, think about it. There's no judgment. But if you know where you stand, then you can see how further along the horizon is, where the end goal is, how you need to shift your lifestyle choices and your mentality towards yourself and towards others in order to uplift your own consciousness. And this week, we were meditating on the four Mahavakyas. So far, over the last 4 days, we covered each of the Mahavakyas. Today, we will meditate on all four of them together. So let's quickly recap the four Mahavakyas. You have Pratnyanam Brahma, or consciousness is Brahman. Pratnyanam Brahma finds its place in Aitreya Upanishad. The first out of the four Mahavakyas is the Laksana Vakya. It is the statement of definition as it gives the first definition of truth, and it declares about consciousness, the spiritual core that lives in each of us, and it is the same all-pervading consciousness in all beings and things. The second Mahavakya is Tattvam Asi, that thou art. The Chandogya Upanishad in the Samaveda houses Tattvam Asi. Here the disciple, after reflecting on the Guru's teachings, still has doubts. This Mahavakya is the Upadesh Vakya, which is the statement of instruction where the Guru tells the disciple that the disciple is the Supreme Brahman and not the mere personality he believes himself to be. Thus, the truth that the disciple is seeking is already within in him and is his self. An individual can achieve this state of consciousness or awareness only through self inquiry. Ahem Brahma Asmi, I am Brahman. The Yajurveda in the Brahardharyanaka Upanishad hosts the Ahem Brahma Asmi. The disciple overcomes his belief that the truth is somewhere else rather than within himself through meditation. He then goes back to his master, filled with his intimate and direct experience of the truth. This same experience of the truth is the nature of this Mahavakya, the Anubhava Vakya, which is the statement of experience. Ayamma Atma Brahma, the self is Brahman. Ayamma Atma Brahma is the last of the four Mahavakyas. It places itself in the Mandukya Upanishad of Atharva Veda. Once the disciple establishes his real nature, the Guru advises him to revel and abide in the self continually. The Mahavakya expresses this very abidance, which is the Anusandhana Vakya or statement of constant practice. Through these concepts, the Gurus teach their disciples and us how to overcome ignorance and forgetfulness through bhakti and jnana. And when they finally understand the truth, they become one with Brahman when one achieves moksha. Prajnanam Brahma. Pure consciousness is Brahman. Tattvam Asi, that thou art. Ahem Brahma Asmi, I am Brahman. Ayam Atma Brahma, the self is Brahman. And now bring your hands together lovingly in front of your heart, eyes closed, and rub your palms together to generate heat. When you feel there is sufficient heat generated between both palms, gently cover both your eyes and blink a couple of times. Then spread that heat over the rest of your body. Bring your hands together in front of you. Then slowly open the palms to represent the budding consciousness which you are. Open your eyes and gaze lovingly at your palms. Namaste. So today we will be doing a recap of the Sukshma Vyayam that we have learned so far this week. Each of these movements are very easy to perform, but before we do that, let's practice pranayam. And this week we are practicing the Nadi Shodhana pranayam, which is to clear or to balance each of your brain's hemispheres, the right and the left hemispheres. The left hemisphere or the left side of your body represents the lunar or the negative or the feminine energy or your parasympathetic nervous system. This is represented by the Ida Nadi, which runs from your Mooladhara chakra all the way to your left nostril. On the right hand side, you have the positive energy or the solar energy or the masculine energy representing the sympathetic nervous system. And this is represented by the Pingala Nadi that runs from your Mooladhara chakra all the way to your right nostril. By balancing each of these hemispheres, your thoughts are cleared, you're able to think more clearly, more rationally, your creativity also opens up, the energy flows more smoothly through you into your astral body, and it also helps the flow of Kundalini energy through the neutral nadi or the Shushumna nadi. So let's begin. Take a couple of neutral breaths. Now with the left hand in Chin Mudra, right hand in Vishnu Mudra, close the right nostril. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now breathe in and out a couple of times, taking nice neutral breaths. Good job. Now let's begin our Sukshma Vyayam, The first movement we are going to do is Uchcharan Sthal Tatha Vishuddhi Chakra Shuddhi, strengthening and cleaning of the vocal cords and Vishuddhi Chakra. The benefits are that they help in getting rid of stutter in the voice, the thinking power improves, the voice becomes melodious. It's highly suggested to singers, radio jockeys, anchors, etc. Regular practice helps attain powerful vocal cords. So take in a couple of deep breaths, keep your legs together, hands to the sides, shoulders back. Chin up and breathe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Bring your chin back parallel to the ground and breathe a couple of times. Wonderful. And our next Sukshma Vyayam is going to be Prarthana or prayer. The benefits are that prayer helps in calming the mind. It sets the tone of the practice and builds concentration. Prayer has a direct effect on controlling sensual desires. It is said that Mahatma Buddha achieved supreme bliss by practicing the prayer, focusing on breath and supreme alone. Hands to the sides. Lift your arms in prayer with both the thumbs touching the sternum notch between your collarbones. Your arms pressing your chest. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Bring the hands back to the sides. Breathe a couple of times. Perfect. Our next Sukshma Vyayam is Buddhi Tatha Dritti Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening of mind and willpower. The benefits are that the center for mind power or Buddhi below the Shikha Mandal. It builds focus at this center with breath regulation, helping in boosting the mind and willpower. So let's begin. Feet together, hands to the sides. Tilt your head all the way back, focusing on the spot behind your head. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Bring your head back, chin parallel to the floor, and breathe a couple of times. Very good. The next Sukshma Vyayam is Smaran Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the memory power. The benefits are that it helps in improving the memory power. It's ideal for people who do mental work a lot, as this movement removes mental lethargy, and it's highly suggested to students, lawyers, artists, and people who do self-study. So let's begin. Feet touching, hands to the sides, chin parallel, look in front of you on the ground. Breathe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Now take a couple of neutral breaths. Good job. And our next Sukshma Vyayam is Medha Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the intellect. The benefits are that this Kriya makes one's personality attractive, and this Kriya helps in directing the prana or the life force energy through the Shushumna Nadi. So let's begin. Legs together, hands to the sides. Bring your chin down to the sternum notch and breathe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And bring your chin up parallel to the ground. Breathe a couple of times. Wonderful. And our next movement is going to be Netra Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the eyes. The benefits are that it helps in the prevention and management of eye ailments. It improves eyesight. A regular practice of a minimum of 40 days is suggested for better results. It is ideal to practice with a certified yoga teacher. It helps in getting rid of fatigue, sleepiness, and mental lethargy. It's ideal for people who have sitting jobs and for students as well. So let's begin. Tilt your head fully back and focus on the spot between your eyebrows with your eyes open. And keep this position, keep your eyes open. We are doing this for around a minute, but usually you should do it for 5 minutes. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to hold this pose. Bring your head back, parallel to the ground. Breathe a couple of times. And our next Sukshma Vyayam is Kapul Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the cheeks. The benefits are that it helps in restoring the natural blush on the cheeks, it helps in removing wrinkles and acne from the face, it strengthens the teeth and helps in the prevention and management of mouth related ailments such as pyorrhea, bad breath, dry mouth, etc. So let's begin. Legs together, hands to the sides. Raise your arms. Keep both your thumbs on either side of your nose. Fingers out, chin to the sternum. Breathe. We are counting for 10 times for each round, and we are doing this 5 times. Once again, thumbs to the sides of the nostrils, closing the nostrils. Cheeks pushed out. Fingers together, chin to the sternum. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now breathe a couple of times. Great. Our next Sukshma Vyayam is Karna Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the hearing power. The benefits are that it helps in the prevention and management of ear-related ailments such as hearing loss and strengthens the hearing power. So let's begin. Legs together, hands to the sides. Bring your arms up. Index finger to your eyes, thumbs to your ears, middle fingers closing your nostrils, and your index finger and small finger on your mouth. We are counting 10 times for each round. Let's do that again. Blow your cheeks out and hold your breath. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathe a couple of times. Good job. And our next Sukshma Vyayam, which is a new Sukshma Vyayam we are learning today, is Griva Shakti Vikasaka, and we are doing part A. This is strengthening the neck. The benefits are that it helps in getting rid of fat around the neck, makes the neck slimmer and more attractive. It helps in releasing stress from the neck, helps in the prevention and management of tonsils, mumps, goiter, etc. It helps as a successful aid for people who are working towards correcting stuttering and stammering. It makes the voice melodious. It's great for people who use their voice in their careers as well as those who have sitting jobs. So let's begin. Legs together, hands to the sides, moving right to left to the count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now move your neck up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. Now breathe a couple of times. And our next Sukshma Vyayam is Bhuja Bandha Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the arms. The benefits are that it helps in removing arm fat. Weak arms get strengthened. This movement can serve as a preparatory for more strenuous arm balancing practices such as Chaturanga Dandasana, etc. It's ideal for shoulder injury rehabilitation and frozen shoulder rehabilitation. So let's begin. Legs together, arms to the sides. Now put both your hands in Adi Mudra. You will bring your arms up together like this and out 25 times. Breathe normally. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And arms down. Breathe now a couple of times. Our next Sukshma Vyayam is Koni Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the elbows. The benefits are that it strengthens the elbow joint and shapes the forearm. Ideal for tennis elbow and golfer elbow rehabilitation. Ideal for mobility restoration in case of arthritis. And let's begin. Keep both hands in Adi Mudra. Upwards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and when you come to 25, keep your hands down and breathe a couple of times. Very good. And our next movement is Bhujavali Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the arms. The benefits are that it's ideal for frozen shoulder rehabilitation, highly suggested to people with sitting jobs as it helps in releasing stress from the shoulders. It helps in removing arm fat and makes the arms slender. Regular practice brings incredible strength to the arms. So let's begin. Keep your hand out like this and lift it up. Don't touch the head or the leg. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And now the other hand. Turn it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Relax and breathe a couple of times. Wonderful. And our last movement for the day is going to be Purna Bhuja Shakti Vikasaka, strengthening the arms. The benefits are that they should be part of the frozen shoulder and shoulder injury rehabilitation routine, but since this involves complete rotation of the arms, one is advised to do as per capacity. If the previously mentioned arm strengthening routines are being followed, then the shoulders will develop strength and rehabilitation will show good results. This is a must-do movement to reduce arm fat. Arms get incredibly powerful as a result of daily practice, and all the arm balancing movements where shoulder strength is needed, such as Chaturanga and Chakrasana, etc., become easier. So let's begin. Arms to the sides. Keep both hands in Adi Mudra. And now clockwise we are going to go round. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And bring your hand down, out, down and down. Breathe a couple of times. Now the other side. Hand in Adi Mudra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Bring your hand up, out, in and down. Take a couple of breaths. Good job today. So how did you feel after this practice? So far this week, as we have been building on the Sukshma Vyayam, you will feel a lot more energetic, more peaceful, rational thinking. You will be able to do things with more ease and flow, and your mind will clear up. Remember that if you are someone still recovering from trauma or from tragedy, if you are stuck in survival mode due to this trauma or tragedy, there may be a lot of negative emotions that also come to the surface, buried memories, buried emotions. You might feel a little off balance. Remember that healing can be a little troublesome, but it is so worth it in the long run. You are meant to be free, and you are meant to rise to the consciousness from which you came. So don't let any negative energy, even if you were a victim of it, even if someone else did it to you or you have done it to somebody else, do not let that hold you back. Rise confidently, and as you do so, let go of the emotional baggage that is holding you back, as this is a barrier and acts as karmic debris, withholding abundance and prosperity from your life. Remember to approach things with a sense of love, because we are all one. One is all and all is one. Whether you want to believe that or not, you like to believe that or not, if you still hold on to grudges, I still do. There are moments where I feel that it is impossible for me to forgive. It's impossible for me to rationalize the things that were done to me and to forgive people, to say, how could they do this to me? How could they do it? But for my own freedom, I'm slowly learning to let go, and I really, really pray that you do the same. So today, I want to do two things. One that we are going to do is, first, I have been doing a little bit of research which actually turned out to be something quite exciting, which talks about the esoteric study of the 7 days of creation. Now, if you are someone who hasn't been taught the 7 days of creation, it's basically it comes from one of the oldest civilizations in the world, from the Semitic region, where the Mesopotamian region, where civilization first developed, if you heard of the Sumerian region, and spread throughout the Semitic regions and civilizations, and that is the 7 days of creation. Now, looking at it from an esoteric standpoint, when the universe was created, when that first spark was ignited, it happened because of a thought. And when consciousness came alive with thought, its first thought was love. And from that love, from that highest point of energy, the universe was created. And as it was created and it started expanding, it started condensing. So that one divine thought is now condensing and is still in motion, creating the earth. Slowly, a thought form which is a spark or a light, condenses into the physical world. And this can help you with your manifestation as well. If you have a manifestation that you would like fulfilled, you start it with a thought. And as you keep thinking about that thought, the thought begins to condense, it begins to take shape and form, it begins to flow and become a physical reality. So, in the book The Sacred History by Jonathan Black, How Angels, Mystics, and Higher Intelligence Made Our World, this is what is mentioned. If you turn to chapter 1 of Genesis in the authorized version of the Bible, the sequence of events is as follows. And God said, Let there be light, let there be a firmament, let it divide the waters from the waters, let the dry land appear, let the earth bring forth grass, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life. Let the earth bring forth the beasts of the earth, let us make man. If you strip out the poetic language, what is this describing? It is a sequence in which subatomic particles or light are followed by gas, which is firmament, followed by liquids, the waters, solids, dry land, primitive vegetable life or grass, primitive marine life, the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, land animals, the beasts of the earth, and finally anatomically modern humans. Let us make man. Looked at it this way, Genesis is consistent with the modern scientific view. The 7-day creation story of the earth, as described in the first chapter of the book of Genesis in the Bible, is rich with symbolic and esoteric meanings. These interpretations go beyond the literal narrative to explore deeper philosophical, spiritual, and mystical dimensions. The process of creation reflects the manifestation of divine order out of chaos. Each day represents a step in the unfolding of divine will, suggesting that the universe is structured and purposeful rather than random and chaotic. The 7 days can symbolize stages in the spiritual development of an individual. Each day represents a different phase of inner growth and enlightenment, from the initial spark of spiritual awareness or light to the culmination in spiritual rest and harmony. The separation of light from darkness on the first day can be seen as the differentiation between knowledge and ignorance, good and evil, or consciousness and unconsciousness. Light is often a symbol of divine wisdom and truth. The creation of opposites such as light and dark, land and sea, and male and female emphasizes the concept of duality and the balance required for harmony in the universe. This duality reflects the need for balance in all aspects of life and existence. The seventh day, the day of rest, represents spiritual fulfillment and the ultimate goal of creation. It symbolizes the attainment of peace, completion, and unity with the divine, often associated with enlightenment or spiritual liberation. The creation story can be seen as a metaphor for the human being as a microcosm of the macrocosm, the universe. Each stage of creation corresponds to an aspect of the human being's physical, mental, and spiritual development. Humanity, created on the sixth day, is seen as the pinnacle of creation, endowed with the divine image and entrusted with stewardship of the earth. This emphasizes the sacred responsibility humans must care for and sustain the environment for each other. The structure of the 7 days underscores the importance of cycles and rhythms in nature and in human life. It encourages the observance of natural and spiritual cycles such as work and rest, growth and renewal. The four creative elements. Earth symbolizes the physical foundation and stability of creation. It represents the material aspect of existence, the tangible and solid ground upon which life is built. In the creation story, the gathering of dry land on the third day reflects the emergence of structure and form from the formless void. Esoterically, earth signifies grounding, practicality, and the manifestation of spiritual ideas into physical reality. Air represents the breath of life, intellect, and communication. It is associated with the spirit and the divine breath that animates all living beings. On the second day, the separation of the waters and the creation of the sky symbolize the establishment of space and the realm of the mind and spirit. Air is the medium through which thoughts and divine inspiration flow, signifying clarity, wisdom, and the movement of spirit within matter. Water symbolizes the subconscious, emotions, and the flow of life. It is a primordial element present from the very beginning of creation, covering the earth before the land appears. On the first and second days, the gathering and separation of waters signify the containment and direction of potential and creativity. Water is associated with purification, healing, and the nurturing aspects of the divine, as well as the flow of spiritual energy through the physical world. Fire represents transformation, energy, and the divine spark. On the first day, the creation of light introduces fire into the cosmos, symbolizing the beginning of awareness and the presence of divine energy. Fire is the catalyst for change, representing passion, creativity, and the transformative power of the divine. It illuminates and purifies, bringing spiritual enlightenment and the energy necessary for creation and renewal. Through the interplay of these four elements, the Genesis creation story reveals the profound integration of the material and the spiritual. Each element contributes to the balance and harmony of the cosmos, reflecting the divine order and purpose underlying creation. These esoteric interpretations offer a deeper understanding of the Genesis creation story, revealing layers of meaning that extend beyond its surface and narrative. By exploring the symbolic significance of earth, air, water, and fire, one can gain insight into the profound spiritual truths and principles that govern the universe. This perspective encourages a holistic view of existence, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and the sacredness inherent in the physical world. Elemental pairing. And let's just close our eyes and focus on what we learned today. Something important to remember is that when you read spiritual script or scripture, do not look at it and take it from face value. As the words are written, that is what it means. You need to meditate upon it, do some research on it, and understand the parable or the spiritual meaning behind it. Usually, these codes need to be deciphered. That's why consciousness, though available to everyone doesn't respond to consciousness in the same way, because people just open religious books or hear it or read about it or listen to somebody talk about it and take it at face value. Rather than meditating upon it, you need to spend a lot of time sitting in silence after reading scripture and understanding what is the spiritual meaning behind it. The words that you read are passcodes to a far greater message, and this message is eternal and available to everybody. There is no special person of a different race, color, caste, gender. It's available to everybody. All you need to do is tap into it. The will and the choice are yours. And today, to continue that meditation as we reflect on how mind transforms into manifestation in the physical world because the all is mind. Next week, we are going to go deeper into these studies by reading the Kybalion. We will cover each of the 7 Hermetic principles, describing what that means on a microcosmic level, which is the human, to the macrocosmic level, which is the universe. And the laws apply the same across all. But today, we are going to practice a very simple esoteric tradition which was even practiced by the Rosicrucians during the time of the Egyptian pharaohs, as well as being practiced in the Hindu culture. In Hindu culture, it is known as Trataka, and what you need to do is focus on a single point. So, if you were here yesterday, I had asked you today to bring a candle stand, and maybe a table or something where you are in line or somewhere in line with the flame. You can go and collect that now. If you don't have it with you, it's fine. You can simply observe and do it later. So, Trataka is a very simple practice which you can do if you have a lamp. All you need is a flame or even a dot, but it would be recommended. So with today's practice, here I have in front of me a candle, which as you can see has been lit several times during my meditation practice. And we are also joined by my cat Bunny. And we are going to look at the flame. Now understand, what is a flame? Is a flame a solid? Is it a liquid? Is it a gas? It's an essence. And this practice is simply that you need to look into the flame. Not look, but very gently, without pressure, without forcing your eyes, gaze into the flame. And try not to close your eyes. Keep your eyes open. Your eyes will slowly start to glaze over. You might feel your eyes drying out. You might feel that it's watering. It's okay if you want to blink, but keep practicing this, because the more you practice it, the more your eyes will get used to it. This is going to help clear your mind, improve your memory. See the difference that it makes the more you practice it. So, shall we go for it? Let's sit straight. You have your candle. In Rosicrucianism, when you look at the flame and you gaze at it, and slowly your gaze starts to soften when you're looking at the flame, we also try to focus on the aura of the flame, or the part just beyond the flame, which you can actually, if you keep repeating in your mind, you can change the color of the aura of the flame as per the colors of the rainbow or the colors of the chakra. That is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and indigo. And when you're done, you can just get your focus out. Keep your eyes closed for a minute. And when you close your eyes, focus on that point here between your two eyebrows. You will see that the flame is now between your eyebrows. And when you're done, slowly open your eyes. How was that practice? I can actually still see the flame in my vision, but in this coming week, we are going to focus more on the hermetic principles, and after that, we will practice this Trataka practice where we stare into the flame, and based on the hermetic principles that we will be reading, we are also going to learn another Rosicrucian practice, which is how to manifest, how to meditate, and we are going to experiment with that next week. So don't forget to tune in and continue with these classes. Also, and more importantly, make sure that privately you are also continuing your practice. The more you do these by yourself, the more research you do and discover what works for you and what practices you enjoy doing that help you connect deeper and deeper with yourself, your higher self, and then with the divine, will make life so much more beautiful. So, shall we close the class for today? You can join your hands lovingly in front of your heart, and if you know the Shanti mantra, you can chant along. If not, just receive its pristine vibrations. And let's begin. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामयः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः 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 Namaste.